Welcome to Welcome Home Doggy. I'm Kenya J, your guest host, and today we have Michelle Chu, founder of Kono's Kitchen. Michelle, tell me a little bit about yourself leading up to Kono's Kitchen.
It's nice to meet you, Kenya, and I'm so excited to be here and just having this conversation. So before I started Kono's Kitchen, I was working at a digital marketing agency for about 7 years. So I got my degree in psychology from the University of California, San Diego, and then I moved to Beijing for 5 years. So when I was there, I did a bunch of different things. I did PR, marketing, social media marketing, teaching English. I was an executive assistant for a hotel chain over there. And so I did a lot of different things to explore and then kind of stumbled on development. So I learned front end development. I came back to the US and found a job at this agency. When I got my job there, I had zero experience and said as much in my interview, but I said that I could learn. And so I worked my way up from front end developer to director of technology when I left. So I was leading a global team of 12 web developers when I left.
Nice. And
Yeah.
you, all of that for the start of Kono's Kitchen. So tell me about that. What enticed you to leave what seems to be a very high profile money making job to
It
pursue?
was. Yeah. So I actually started Kono's Kitchen a year before I left the agency. So for the first year of Kono's Kitchen, I was working nights until 2, 3 a.m. And then I was working weekends. I wasn't doing events or pop-ups at the time because of COVID. So I launched Kono's Kitchen, which is a brand of single ingredient, freeze-dried pet treats. I launched it in July of 2020, so in the middle of the pandemic. And I had always planned to launch then. So it was always my plan to launch before the pandemic happened. And then when it happened, luckily it was an online, mostly online business. So it's an e-commerce store. I'm at konoskitchen.com. And so being online made it easier to launch than other businesses that would have been brick and mortar, for example, if it had been one. Because another idea I had been exploring was a doggy daycare.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good thing that I didn't launch that. So I launched in 2020. I was looking to feed Kono. I was switching him to a raw diet and I was looking for treats that were healthier. So I wanted treats that I didn't have to break down into smaller pieces so I could use it for better timing with training. And I also wanted them to just not have all those fillers and additives that you see in a lot of those big box stores.
So, what's so special about Kono? What led you to want to be on this journey to obviously better health for him? But what is it about him that led you to want to start a whole movement in his name?
That's a really good question that I don't think anyone's asked me before. So with Kono, when I got him in 2018, I got him from the shelter from the Inland Valley Humane Society. He was a stray. They found him on the street. I have no idea what his backstory was. So I was actually looking for a girl when I went to the shelter. And then I walked down this row of kennels and this brindle boy was jumping up at the kennel gate and trying to lick my face and that was it. So he chose me.
Okay, that is absolutely fair. They typically do.
Yeah. And
So,
so I brought him home. So what to answer your question, I brought him home and within 6 months he had gained 35 pounds, which I think part of that was potentially age and just getting larger with age, because I think he was around one-ish when I got him. So he's still kind of growing. But what I didn't realize is that at 100 pounds, he was overweight. And so that started me on this journey of helping him lose weight and figuring out and going down rabbit holes of diets and different diets for him, different types of foods. And so that's how I got to the raw diet and then stumbled on freeze dried raw, which is in my opinion, an easier way, kind of like an entry point for people who don't feed raw, who want to feed their dogs healthier treats.
Awesome. And so pretty much we're gonna do some product showing here. So
Yeah.
all of these are, you said freeze dried.
Mm-hmm. So
Okay.
they're freeze dried raw. So the process is they're flash frozen and then the moisture is removed with a vacuum. And what you're left with is that freeze dried raw product that is pantry safe, which is really nice. And as also they're smaller pieces. So they're good for big dogs, small dogs. I basically toss them in my treat pouch and go. We do a lot of training together. So it's perfect for that.
Okay, so I have three flavors right here. I have the
Mm-hmm.
chicken, the beef, the salmon. Are there more flavors or are these your base proteins?
Those are my base proteins. Yeah, so those are the beef is beef and beef liver, chicken is chicken and chicken liver, and the salmon is just salmon. Everything is GMO free, hormone free, and sourced here in the US.
Nice. And do you know what the shelf life is? Aren't freeze dried things like longer shelf life or
They're
something?
typically longer, yeah, so between 2 to 3 years.
Nice. Okay. Is that before opened or even when opened?
Before opening.
Okay, before
Yeah, before
opening.
opening.
Okay,
So I
cool.
mean, yeah, even after opening, I would usually recommend consuming it with the dog to consume it within, a couple months or so, but they do last a very long time. And my customers typically don't have an issue with finishing the bag within a month.
I'm sure. And I love what you said as it pertains to someone who is wanting to do better, but the raw diet might be a little bit too much for them to start off. I know personally, I kind of fall in that category. I have an old girl right now that I'm teetering
Yeah,
on what to do. So that's an amazing option to at least introduce or to introduce to see if your dog is even interested in like that because dogs are just like people
totally.
and everybody doesn't like everything.
Yeah, and I agree. And that's why when I go to events and people try the treats or their dogs try the treats, I'm never offended if they don't take them because one, their dogs might not like them, and that's fine. Like I don't like everything. I don't like mustard, and I don't like donuts, which I I get a lot of flack for is the donuts thing. But and then I think the other factor too at events is it's very stimulating, and so a lot of times it's too stressful for the dogs to take any food. And so I understand that. And luckily, the treats don't crumble. So I typically just tell people go ahead and take it home and try it in a more comfortable environment.
That is very good advice. So, what are some of the lessons that you learned as a first time small business owner? Like, what are some of the advantages you may have had that some people don't have, or what are some of the adversities that you might have faced when starting up?
It's tough. When people say it's tough, I understand now what that means. I was very fortunate that I did have the capital to be self-funded from day one, and to work with a co-packer from day one. And so that part I think has been, I haven't had to find funding yet, but I think that one of the lessons that I'm still learning is even though I've been self-funded, now how can I make it profitable and make sure that this is sustainable and that long
Right.
term I can still be around because I have a lot of goals for this business and I want to make sure that Kono's Kitchen is still around to see those through. So I think one of the other lessons I've learned is to start small. So one of my biggest, I want to business mistakes slash lessons slash fails is my first year. I put together a holiday treat box of three other women of color owned businesses. So within this treat box, I have four items. Two are for the dog parent, two are for the dog. So it's kind of like a treat yourself, treat your dog kind of thing. And what I didn't, I have big ambitions. And so this was year one. This was less than 6 months after I'd launched my brand. And I basically prepared 500 of those treat boxes because I was like, I could do it. I could sell 500 treat
500.
boxes in my first
Wow,
six
that is
months
a
of
big
being in business.
number.
It
500.
is a big number, and that did not happen. I think I sold that first year, I sold maybe 25 of them, and probably five of them were my family supporting me and purchasing them or
Oh,
feeling bad for me and purchasing them. So that was a big lesson. I think if I had started smaller with, like 10 to 15 just to test it out, that would have been that would have given me more information for like the next year versus, all right, I got to do this, I got to go big. And transparently, that cost me between 20 to $25,000 in inventory.
whoa. Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it hurt. That was a big
That is a very, very hard lesson, but good for other people
It's
who
an
is watching.
expensive
Start
lesson.
small. The big
Yeah,
business can start off small.
start small. And I think it's interesting because this year I feel like I've kind of been going backwards. So, like I mentioned, I launched in the middle of the pandemic. And so I didn't get to do pop ups or events. I didn't do my first dog event until a year ago,
Okay.
which was a year ago, 2021. Yeah. So, the first like year and a half or so, I didn't do any dog events. So I wasn't getting out there. And so now this year, I've been focusing on the community, focusing on just getting the word out in the LA area versus having to take over the world and take over at least start with US.
Okay.
And I'm very fortunate that I was able to build a community my first year where I do have a lot of customers across the US, and I ship anywhere in the US and now Canada. So
Nice.
I've expanded to Canada as well. Um, but at the same time, I think my focus for 2023 is going to be to continue building this community of dog parents who can support each other. And especially when it comes to training, because Kono is reactive to other dogs. So that was actually one of my inspirations for Kono's Kitchen. Because of his reactivity, it was very isolating. And I needed that community. And luckily, I found my own. And I wanted to build that for other people where they didn't have to feel alone. They didn't have to feel like they were doing something wrong with their dogs, like they had messed them up somehow. A lot of times it's genetics, which I didn't understand until, later on in my dog journey. But just being able to provide not just treats, but to provide that community of support and resources and to be able to learn from each other, like that really is my passion. And that's what I want. That's my vision for Kono's Kitchen, is to kind of spread the knowledge and the love, and help people not feel so alone.
That's amazing. And I'm glad to hear you speak of growth because my next question was actually leading into what future plans do you have for Kono's Kitchen? Like, what direction do you see this going in? Obviously,
Yeah,
you've already established you have pretty big visions. So, but from a smaller to growth development scale.
I do. I think from a personal growth standpoint, I want to work on just focusing on the smaller wins and not having to go big all the time, because as I've learned, that can be a costly mistake. It can lead to a costly mistake. But I think just really focusing on the people that are already in my community. So one of the things that I started doing recently is a monthly meetup at a local bar. So I go to this local bar. I'm actually there popping up twice a month. So one of those days, I invite my community, people in the LA Eagle Rock area, to come to Eagle Rock Brewery. It's once a month, and we just chill and talk about dogs and dog training, have a beer, have a non-alcoholic drink, grab some treats from me. It's a fun time, and it's not, it's like low key, but I think that each month that I do it, as I'm more consistent with it, my vision for that is to keep growing that group and hopefully spread that across the states and have meetups across the states with reps who can lead those meetups. So that's part of my vision for 2023, as well as I've got some other initiatives in mind. I won't say too much. But one thing that I've really benefited from a training perspective, is working one-on-one with another dog parent. So another dog parent who has something they want to work on has been really beneficial for Kono, because it's a controlled environment. It's a dog that we probably haven't met, because we don't usually do greetings unless I really know the dog. But yesterday we actually did a training session with a new friend and her dog. And her dog has a bit of a lower threshold than Kono does. So he needs a bit more distance. And so we just worked at the distance that her dog was comfortable at. Just a lot of walking our dogs separately, but together, getting them used to just being in the same vicinity. And it was really rewarding to see how great her dog was doing, and rewarding for me, because she was grateful to have that space to be able to, initially she was embarrassed that her dog might vocalize and might be really loud. And I had chosen a spot where there were no people, there weren't any other dogs really. And it's a space I train a lot in. And I just told her, like, nobody's here. I completely understand what you mean, because I've been there with my dog where he's pulling at the leash or vocalizing. And we've gotten through a lot of it. He's still reactive in some situations, but it's a work in progress. So to be able to provide that space for her, like, that was really rewarding for me.
I think that you're doing an amazing thing outside of just kind of the health side of the treats and things of that nature. But you mentioned so much about creating a safe space. And a lot of things that some people don't understand is when you do take on these rescue dogs, it's a lot. You don't know their background, you don't know their history, you don't know their story. All you're trying to do is provide a great future. And it can sometimes be a little embarrassing, because someone can look at you and you can feel like you don't have control over your situation.
Totally.
And it's not the sense of not having control, it's just not having the safe space or environment to be able to explore what that really looks like. So
Right.
that sounds amazing. I can kind of see in the future a Kono's kitchen tour happening across the nation.
That would be amazing. Honestly, I think long-term vision, like, that would be the goal, be able to do a road trip across the US and just stop at different places, meet a bunch of these friends face to face that I've been talking to and who have been a part of my community for so long. That's the dream.
Awesome. Well, in doing that, do you have any fun celebrity clients that you might have already graced? I mean, you are in LA.
I am in LA. I do have a couple of fun stories. So my first celebrity client was actually uh, Sir Patrick Stewart's wife. So
Oh,
she had found me through an influencer that I had sent treats to, and I guess she followed. So she does a lot of fostering with an organization that I'm actually pretty close to, called Wags and Walks. So it's a
oh,
rescue here in LA. It's on the west side. I do a lot of work for their gala every year, and I see them around at these dog events, and it's always really fun to see them. But so she and her husband were fostering for them for a while. And so she had a foster at the time, purchased a bag of my treats, which was awesome. And then out of the blue one day just messaged me, and we started chatting at like 2 a.m. about crate training for an hour. So that was it was kind of surreal, but it was cool to just connect and to be able to talk about this shared love for dogs and wanting to do what's best for them. And then another fun celebrity client is Anthony from Queer Eye. So
oh,
he was a client as well, or a customer. And I had initially sent him some free treats, and then he had purchased an additional bag because his dog Neon loved the treats. And
nice.
so we chatted a little bit here and there. And so that was a cool story, because I have a huge crush on him.
Well, I don't know if you can hear the whimpering and whining in my background, but you keep saying the magic word of treats. So I might
Yeah.
have to get some product from you myself to let one of my babies try it. Because if we say that word again, they're probably going to lose it.
I
But
know. They want in on this interview.
they want in on it. But I'm sure a lot of people want in on it. So if you don't mind telling our viewers how and where they can follow you, your website, your social handles, everything that they would need to access you and or the products that they want to give from Kono's Kitchen.
Sure. So I am online at konoskitchen.com. That's KONOS kitchen.com. That's where you can get the treats. I ship anywhere in the US or in Canada. And then I'm on Instagram at It's Kono's Kitchen, ITS Kono's Kitchen. And mostly I'm on Instagram or online. You can also email me at bork at konos ORK at konoskitchen.com. So that's where you
Awesome.
can find me.
Perfect. Well, you guys, this has been an amazing interview with Michelle. We really appreciate your time and everything that you've had to offer, from fun stories to fun facts. And if you guys want to learn more about us and or amazing people like Michelle, you can go and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Welcome Home Doggy. I'm Kenya J, and it's been nothing less than a pleasure. See, he came for the treats. Thank you so much for your
Perfect
time,
timing.
Michelle. Have a good
Thank you so
one,
much for your time, Kenya. It was great chatting.
as always.